everyone, welcome to Power 21 with ClearTax. I am C. Surbi Bunshi, and today we are going to discuss on refund under GST as a detailed analysis. We'll understand what all are the provisions regarding the refund under GST, when we can actually claim the refund, what are the cases when we can't claim the refund. Also, we'll understand about different scenarios where we can claim the refund or not, because there are lot many clarification which has been given by the department regarding the certain transaction where can we claim the refund or not. So we are going to discuss all about this in today's session. So we'll just start our session. So before this, I want to give a big congratulations to Ms. Rohini Karmalkar, who is part of our Power of 21 and also helping the business in fighting with COVID-19. Big congratulations to Rohini Karmalkar for being our ClearTax champion. So now we'll just start our session. So in today's session, we will be discussing on the different refund criteria and exception, the timeline for claiming the refund, the refund process, the form and the procedure for refund claim, document to be filed, guidelines, certain clarification, and also the list of the circular which has been issued by the department. So we'll now start. So the first important things which we are going to discuss on the refund is the allowable refund. What are the conditions when I can actually claim the refund? And in this scenario, we cannot claim the refund, because that is first thing which comes into our mind while we think of a refund. Now, if we just talk about GST, we understand in GST we have mainly two things. One is our electronic credit ledger and other is electronic cash ledger. Whatever I make the payment using a challan, that goes into our electronic cash ledger, and whatever the ITC I claim on my purchases while I file my 3B, that goes and reflects in our electronic credit ledger. Now question comes in, if there is certain extra amount in the electronic credit ledger, can I claim the refund? Or let's say if I have deposit extra money in the cash ledger, can I claim the refund of that or not? What if instead of paying IGST, I have deposited CGST and SGST to the government? Can I claim the refund for that? Or maybe there could be a scenario, instead of paying 10,000 rupees to the government, I have deposited 12,000 to the government. Can I claim the refund of that extra amount, the 2,000 which I have made the payment to the government or not? What if I am doing exports? Because government always says, and they always wants to promote this export. If I am making this export against the LUT, so if I am making export against LUT, can I claim the refund of that input whichever I have received as a refund? Or what if I am making without the LUT? In that case, I'm going to make the payment to the government. Can I claim the refund of that or not? What about deemed export? Can I claim the refund? Also, there are a lot many questions which usually comes into our mind. And also there are certain questions which comes in like, what if I have already paid the taxes to the government on the advances, but later I have not even made the supply? Can I claim the refund of that amount or not? What if I have made such a supply, but I have to raise a credit note because my customer is not accepting that goods or the services? So can I claim the refund for that or not? So these are like so many questions which usually comes into mind. So now first we'll start with this and understand what are the situations or the scenarios where we can actually go ahead and claim the refund, and what are the application which we need to file for claiming the refund. So first thing, obviously we know the government wants to promote the export. So here, whenever you are doing zero rated supply, because that export which we are doing is referred as zero rated supplies. So whenever you are doing an export or supplying to an SCZ, you can claim the refund. Now here question comes in, whenever we are talking about export with payment of IGST or supplies to an SCZ with payment of IGST, which means I am making the payment of the taxes to the government after utilizing the ITC. In this scenario, I can claim the refund of the taxes which I have paid to the government, which means, if just think of an example, let's say you have exported the goods of 1 lakh rupees and the taxes on the output liability is 18,000 rupees. You are purchasing something and you purchase, let's say there was a domestic purchases and you purchase the same thing for 80,000 and you have paid the taxes of, let's say, 10,000 rupees. Now in this particular case, question is like, well, whether I will get the refund of entire 18,000 or I will get the refund of the difference amount, because while I was making the payment to the government, I would have paid 18,000 minus I would have also utilized the ITC of 10,000, which means by cash I would have already only made the payment of 8,000. So in this case, what would be my refund amount? So if we just talk about normal scenario, here the refund amount will be the total amount on my liability, which is 18,000, because government will also give you the refund of the ITC which you have already utilized against paying the liability to the government. So here you will get the refund of 18,000. Similarly, the case applies to supply to an SEZ with payment of IGST. Same as we have done for the export, this will also apply to a supply to an SEZ with payment of IGST. Now the next question comes in, what about if I am not making the payment to the government? I am under the LUT, I have filed a declaration which is an LUT. Now can I claim the refund of the purchases which I have made? I have already made the payment of the GST to my suppliers. Again, yes, you can claim the refund of the purchases which you have made and the taxes which you have already paid to the supplier. So for that, again, you can claim the refund. Then there is a deemed export. So if you are doing a deemed export, it could be a supplier, it could be a recipient. So government says either of supplier or recipient can actually claim the refund of the taxes paid. Then the next part is the inverted duty structure. What does that mean? Here, the thing is there is an output liability or tax on the output tax, and there is an input tax, which means tax rate on the inputs, which is my purchases. If your output tax is less than the input tax rate, in that case, this is known as inverted duty structure, and you can claim the refund because your ITC will get accumulated. You will not be able to utilize that against your output tax liability. But here there are certain clarification, because think of a case. Let's say I purchased something at the rate of 18%. Now I was about to sell it. Let's say after 2 months, I have stock and I've already claimed the ITC. It was there in the electronic credit ledger. When I was about to sell, I come to know the tax rate has been changed. So the tax rate instead of 18% now is 12%. Now, since my output tax rate is lower than my input tax rate, so can I, whether this situation will come under this inverted duty structure? So there was a clarification for this, and this situation will not come under the inverted duty structure, because your input and the output were same. It's just because of the time of supply and because of this time span, the rate got changed. It doesn't mean that this is an inverted duty structure. So this scenario will not come in this particular case. Now, other point could be if there is certain extra balance in your electronic cash ledger. Yes, you can claim the refund for that. There are scenarios which you are talking about. For example, you received an advance and you have made the payment to the government on that advance. Later on, you have issued a refund voucher. The reason is because you were not able to supply. In that particular case, again, if you are able to adjust that against your extra output tax liability, go ahead and adjust that against your output tax liability. But if you're not able to adjust that amount against the tax liability, then you can also claim the refund from the department. Similarly, if you have done certain supplies and later you have received back that goods or the services, in that particular, because services, obviously you would not even have supplied it, but you would have raised the invoice. So in that case, if you have received and now you have issued a credit note in that case, then the amount you can adjust against your future tax liability. But in case you feel you are not able to adjust that amount which you have already paid to the government because you don't have any future tax liability, in that case, again, you can claim the refund for this by filing an application in form RFT01. So that is again possible. Then there is a question of refund on account of assessment, provisional assessment or appeal. For against that, whenever the refund was, you got that order, you can actually claim the refund for that. So these are the different scenarios against which you can claim the refund. And also if it's a UNO or we can say embassy and all, because they also take a separate registration where they can claim the refund on the purchases made by them. So whatever the purchase they are making, they can claim the refund by filing a return. So that would be the another thing where they can actually claim the refund. So these are the different cases where the user can actually go ahead and claim the refund. Now question comes in, what are the cases where they cannot claim the refund? So if we talk about the cases or the exceptions where the government will either withhold their refund or will not give them the refund, are the first thing is the defaulters. Why defaulters? So because government don't rely on that. Whenever they're defaulting in filing the return, they're not filing the return on time, or maybe they're not making the payment of the taxes to the government or the payment of the interest or the late fees. The government feels, why should I even give the refund? Because I know in future this person is not going to give me the payment, so I will not give the refund now. I will adjust that amount, the liability, which he is not giving through this refund. So in that particular case, they withhold the tax. So here, if we just talk about, for example, there is a casual taxable person. Casual taxable person or a non-resident taxable person, they usually deposit the advances to the government, and then they make a supply, and then they adjust the tax amount against that supply, and after that they also file the return and finalize their liability. Once their liability is finalized, if there was extra amount which is paid to the government, they will get that as a refund. But if, let's say, they're not even filing the return, so if they're not filing the return, or if there was certain amount which was required to be deposited by them, there was certain interest to the late fees which was about to be deposited by them, and they are not doing that, the government will adjust that amount against this refund and will only refund that balance amount. Then the second case could be, let's say I have a zero rated supplies and I have some unutilized ITC. Whenever I'm saying unutilized ITC, obviously this will be in case I'm doing the zero rated supply against the LUT. When I'm supplying to an SEZ or I'm doing an export against the LUT, that means I have an unutilized ITC. Or if there is an inverted duty structure, that is also my unutilized ITC. So in this case, if I am defaulting in the payment of interest, tax and the penalty, then I cannot claim so I will not get the refund. Apart from that, there could be unutilized ITC on exports. So here question is, because government wants to promote the export, that is the reason they're giving you the refund for the taxes, the output liability you have, or maybe the ITC, so that the cost does not get increased. That was the main purpose. But there are certain goods or the services where government says, I don't want to promote this. I don't want this to be exported. So on that goods, they actually levy the export duty. So when they levy the export duty, because they don't even want to promote, so obviously they will also not allow you to get the refund for that thing. So in that case, again, they will not give you the refund. Other than this, there could be cases where you are already availing the duty drawback. So if you are already availing the duty drawback, you are already getting the benefit from the government, then there is no question of refund on such transaction. Apart from that, if there is an order giving rise to a refund, is subject matter of an appeal or further proceeding, which means the government fees. So they have already given an order that the refund should be given to you, but department feels like, here I'm going to file an appeal because I don't think so this person is eligible for this refund. So in that particular case, if they feel so, they may again withhold your refund amount, and maybe a letter, whatever the decision may be, they can give you the refund amount with the interest. Apart from that, if that amount is less than 1000, when I'm saying amount is less than 1000, we have to separately count for IGST, CGST, and HGST. So if the amount is less than 1000, again, you are not allowed to get the refund. So these are the cases where you will not get the refund, or your refund will be withheld, or maybe you will get the refund only after adjusting the taxes due you have with the government. So these are the cases of the exception where your refund will be withheld. Now the question is, now we actually understood like what are the cases when I am able to get the refund, and we understand if there is an extra balance in a cash ledger, I can get the refund for that. Whenever I'm doing export, I can get the refund for that. I'm doing deemed export, I can claim the refund for that. If there's an inverted duty structure, I can again go ahead and claim the refund for that. So this was certain cases we understood, but obviously there should always be a timeline till then I can claim the refund. So there should be a maximum limit for that, right? So here again, there is a maximum limit. They say within, in general, if we talk about what is the time limit, so there are cases like taxes paid on zero rated supply, or the taxes on deemed export, or taxes paid on input services used in making zero rated supply, or unutilized input tax credit. Here the due date, or we can say the timeline, which is a maximum limit, it is within 2 years from the relevant date. So within 2 years from the relevant date, in case of taxes paid on the zero date supply, taxes on the deemed export, taxes paid on input services used in making zero date supply or unutilized input tax credit, you can claim this within 2 years from the relevant date. We'll understand what this relevant date is, from where we have to actually count this 2 year. We'll understand about it. And if we talk about the supplies to an United Nations, in that particular case, you can apply for the refund once every quarter along with the return file. So here, because you claim for this refund, so the time limit for this is 6 months from the end of the quarter. So from the 6 months from the end of the quarter, the maximum limit is for claiming the refund. And if you're filing the GSTFI, which means you're a casual taxable person, the non-resident taxable person, then the refund can be claimed only after you file the return. So here, one important thing which we should actually understand, whenever I'm talking about the taxes paid on the zero rated supplies or the inverted duty structure or whatever, I have some unutilized ITC. In this case, the limit is 2 years. So there is no, like, obviously there would be a time when you're filing the refund application, and then there is a time when you are claiming the refund. So you can go ahead and claim the refund. Obviously, there is a restriction, like beyond this, you cannot claim the refund. So that restriction was 2 years from the relevant date. First, we'll understand what is this relevant date, and then we'll also understand, is there any benefit, or we can say there are some benefit. Sorry, if there any benefit or not, or whether there is any relaxation which has been given, because due to COVID-19, we were not able to file a return. We are not at our offices. Our system are not in place, so we are not able to go and file the application. What if there was particular due date? I'm not able to file the application. Whether there is any relaxation in extending this date? So yes, there are. We'll also understand about the relaxation which has been given to us. Now, first we'll talk about the relevant date. If we talk about relevant date for export of good, if you're doing it by sea or air, the date on which conveyance leave India will become your relevant date. If you're doing it by land, it's a date the good pass the frontier. And if it's by post, then the date of dispatch by post office to the place outside India. In case of export of services, here question comes in, if the supply is before the payment, then date of receipt of payment in foreign exchange, and the payment is before the supply, then it's the date of issue of invoice. We'll just take an example over here and just hold for a second. Think of a case. Usually what happens, government says what government wants when it comes to services, because they cannot see that. They won't know that whether you have actually provided services or not. So they mainly rely on the foreign currency. They rely on the foreign currency which you get. Obviously, there are certain cases where even if you get the rupee, if it's permitted by the RBI, that will also be counted as that you have fulfilled that scenario or criteria. So here, if you get the amount, so what government is saying, in case of export of services, if you are receiving the advance, then in that case, whenever you raise the invoice, from that particular date, I'm going to count your 2 years. Second case could be when you have not received the advance, you have already raised the invoice. So government says whenever you receive the money, from there I'm going to count the 2 years. So this is because the government wants to make sure you are having the supply, you're done with the supply, and you're also receiving the money from that person. Now, if we talk about the deemed export, in that case, the date on which return relating to the deemed export is filed, or the refund is claimed by the recipient. If we talk about refund by the court order, it's a date of judgment. If we talk about unutilized ITC, is the end of the financial year in which refund arises. For provisional taxes, the date of adjustment of tax paid after final assessment. We'll understand this in detail because this is really important whenever you're making zero rated supply, because in that case you actually get the refund on the provisional basis. So we'll understand about that also. But if we talk about provisional taxes, this is mainly in respect of sometimes you go for the advanced ruling and just make the payment on the provisional basis because you're not sure that what would be the tax amount for that. So after the decision is made, then you have to get the refund. So here the government says the date of adjustment of tax after the final assessment. So after you got, okay, this would be the final tax rate. Or there could also be cases where you pay the taxes to the government on provisional basis because there was an appeal which is done and you're not sure what will be the final conclusion. So here, whenever the final assessment is done, you can go ahead and claim the refund. Then there is a special economic zone. So whenever they confirm that they have received it, you can claim the refund. In case of the person other than supplier, the date of receipt of the goods or services by the recipient, that will become the date. And in any other cases, it is date of payment of taxes. So this is a relevant date and it's important because from here you are going to decide like what would be the maximum time when you can actually claim the refund, which is from here you have to count 2 years and this would be the maximum time limit when you can claim the refund. So this is again important because after that you will not be able to claim the refund for that particular thing. Now we discuss on the refund process. If we talk about the refund process, the first thing which will be you have to file an application. You will file the RFD 1 or RFD 10. After you file an application, you will receive the application reference number. After you get the application reference number, this information will be gone to the assessing officer. Assessing officer will see whether the application which has been filed by you is correct or not. If he feels everything is good, he will give you an acknowledgement number. But if you feel there is certain discrepancies or the things which you have actually given in this application and the documents, the supporting documents which has been filed along with this RFD 1 or 10 is not correct, then this person will give you a deficiency memo where he will highlight that this is not correct. And then what you will do, you have to file a fresh application at that moment. So you will file a fresh application over there. But if everything is correct, then this person, if it's a zero rated supplies, then this person will give you a refund on the provisional basis. So this person will give you the refund on the provisional basis, which is 90% of the refund he will give you. And the rest he has to do the final assessment. But if he feel like everything is good, then he can also do the final assessment at the same time. After this is done, obviously this refund needs to be given. So this refund will be given through a payment advice. And after this is done, there would be a final refund, which would be the order sanctioning the refund, which is usually through an RFD 06. So this all needs to be done. But we'll understand this one by one because there are a lot many things which we need to take care while we are filing for the refund application, while this person is actually issuing a deficiency memo or the acknowledgement number. Also, we should know the timelines because everything is time bound. So we should know the timeline for all this. So we'll now discuss this in detail one by one, like what is that application, how to file it and all this stuff. So first is refund application. So I told you either it's the RFD 1 or RFD 10. So if it's a UNO or embassy, for them they have to file RFD 10. And for you, if you have to claim the refund for the zero rated supplies, or you have to, when I'm saying zero rated supply, I'm talking about the refund against the LUT. So if you had done the zero rated supply against the LUT, in that case you have to file the RFD 01. But if you are making the supply with the payment of IGST, in this case you don't have to even file RFD 01. There is a separate procedure. We'll discuss on that procedure also, like what to be done at that particular moment. But now if we talk about if you have inverted duty structure, or you have extra cash ledger balance, or you have paid the wrong taxes, or maybe you have paid extra taxes to the government. So all cases, on all such cases, you can actually file RFD 01. Obviously, you have to select the option that for which you are applicable. We'll also know what are the options which is given on the portal. So you have to file the RFD 01 in that particular case. Now, if we talk about the RFD 01, so at present, with effect from 26 September 2019, all the refund procedure is fully electronic. So you don't have to go to the offline to the proper officer and give the document, submit the document. So this all has been now removed. You can file all the refund application along with the supporting document online. So here, what you have to do, you have to fill in this form, the RFD 01. There are a lot many information which has been asked in this form. And along with this, you also have to give the list of the document which has been asked in Annexure 1. So in Annexure 1, again, there are a lot many information and it is dependent on what kind of the refund you are asking for. Obviously, for zero date supply is little different, for inverted duty structure is little different. If you have extra cash ledger balance, that is little different. So you have to give the supporting document. You can also give some extra document if you want, but the maximum size should be 5 MB, and there would be a 4 documents which can be uploaded over there. And after this is done, so after you are done with all the documents, the you can say the refund application and the supporting document, the next part is you will receive an application reference number. So once you submit this application, you will receive the application reference number. Now, let's say I have already submitted the application, I have received the application reference number. But before that, there is one question comes into our mind. What if I want to claim the refund for 2 or 3 months together? What if I'm a quarterly user? If I'm a quarterly user, can I claim the refund on the monthly basis, or I have to file an application on the quarterly basis? So for all this, so especially for the zero date supply, this happens. If you're a quarterly user, you will be filing this application also on quarterly basis. If you are a monthly user, you will be filing this application also on monthly basis. But you can also file like for 2 or 3 months together, or for 2 or 3 quarters together. So that is allowed. Another question comes in, can I actually have 1 month of this quarter, for example, March 2020 and April 2020? Can I file the refund application for this 2 months together? So answer for this is yes, you can do that, because there's a recent clarification which has been given by the department where they say even if it's in the across financial year, you can file the application together. So that is allowed. So now you receive the ARN number, which is application reference number. Now what will happen? This will go to the proper officer. Proper officer will look into the application and the supporting which has been submitted by you. After he looks into this application and the supporting document, if he feels like everything is great, everything was fine, this person will issue an acknowledgement. But if this person feels no, there was certain discrepancy over here, then this person will issue a deficiency memo. Right? So here, obviously, there is a time limit for this. So within 15 days, this needs to be done. Either this person has to say yes, it's right, or if it's not, then he has to actually issue the deficiency memo. So there is a time limit of 15 days over here. Now, when we talk about what is the form type for that, so whenever he is giving the acknowledgement, which means he's giving thumbs up, then it's form GST RFD 02, and whenever he's saying there's a discrepancy, then this person has to issue the form GST RFD 03. Now, when we talk about deficiency memo, what to do now? Let's say this person has told, the proper officer has told that there is a problem over here in this application or the documents which you have submitted. What should we do? In that particular case, we again have to file a fresh application. So we'll be filing a fresh application, and this person have to look into whether the issues which he has raised has been solved or not. But it doesn't mean that this person will now come with another issue and say, okay, this is also not right. So that person has to tell this all thing at one time, and now he will solve all this, and then he will review it, and if everything is fine, then this person will raise and give an acknowledgement. Now when we talk about, so acknowledgement is given, good. Question comes in, what about the 2 years limit? Is it because I filed the application, will it be from there only, or my application or the time limit which I have will be extended? So for the time limit will not be extended, it will remain the same. Okay, now this person has given you a thumbs up. He says, yes, everything is fine. This person has given you the acknowledgement number. So after this acknowledgement is given, in respect of the zero rated supplies of the goods or services, the person will actually issue a provisional refund, which is 90%. So 90% he will be issuing the provisional refund, and that needs to be issued within the 7 days from the date of acknowledgement, and that will be issued through RFD 04. And if the proper officer may also issue a final order for the total refund in place of provisional refund within 7 days from the date of acknowledgement through GST form RFD 06, if proper officer is fully satisfied about the eligibility of refund claim on account of zero date supply, and he is of the opinion that no further scrutiny is required. So wherever, so that person has already given you the go ahead, yes, the application looks fine, everything is fine. But obviously this person will also do further scrutiny. He will say whether you are actually eligible for the refund or not. whether the thing you are saying, the exports which you have done, do you have shipping bill details and all or not? Whether the services, if you have, whether the payment advice was properly given or not. If he's satisfied, like I don't require further scrutiny because the document whichever you have shared is right, and he feels everything was good, in that particular case, this person can also issue the final order, which is through GST form RFD 06. Now the question is, what if this person has already given you the 90% of the refund of whatever you have claimed, but that refund which he has given, he seems while he was doing the scrutiny, while he was looking into the form, he feels you are not even eligible for that. Ideally, the provisional refund usually is always less than the final refund because he has only given the 90% of the refund. But in cases where this person feels that you are not even eligible for that amount, you are eligible for the less amount, what will happen in that particular case? Think of an example. You applied, you have filled the form RFD01 along with the document. You applied for the refund of 100, just for an example. The refund amount was 100. Now, this person, the proper officer, has already given you the refund of 90 on provisional basis. But while he was doing the final assessment, he felt you are only eligible for 70 rupees. Now, if you are only eligible for 70 rupees, what this person will do? So here, he has to make a final assessment. So the final assessment will be done in RFD 06, where he will say that you are eligible only for 70 rupees. But since he has already paid you 90, which means he has already paid 20 rupees extra. So for that, this person will issue form GST DRC 07 and will also ask for you for the interest and the penalty. And this will be shown in your electronic liability register, which will show that you have now extra amount which needs to be paid by you to the department. Now, if we just talk about this, because now we got, okay, the extra amount was already paid to you, this person will ask for the refund. But before that, don't you think that this person should actually give you the show cause notice or should ask you like whether that whatever he has done is right or not? So here, this assessment officer, or sorry, the proper officer, what he will do, he will actually ask you, he will ask you like, why should I not reduce your refund? Why should I not create an extra liability on you? So this will be asked, the show cause notice will be given to you, where you have to tell and within 15 days you have to reply that I have not done any wrong, everything is correct, I have a proper document for that. And if he's satisfied, then obviously he will redo the final assessment. But if he's not, then this person will actually raise a final assessment. Now question comes in, okay, there was a provisional refund and there was a final refund. So how this person is going to make the payment, how the dispersal will happen. So for the dispersal, this person will actually issue a form which is a GST RFD 05, which is a payment advice. So this person will issue a payment advice to you. So where the refund amount would not have been credited to the bank account of the applicant, within 60 days from the date of receipt of the ARN, the interest at the rate of 6% shall have to be paid on the refund amount starting from the date immediately after the expiry of 60 days from the date of receipt of application till the date of refund of such tax. So if that person is giving, the proper officer is giving the refund on time, then great, you don't have to pay any interest. But if this person is not giving on time, then this person also have to give you the interest at the rate of 6% per annum. Another important question which usually comes into our mind is sometimes, see, because we are paying SGST, we are paying CGST, we are also paying IGST. So the thing is like whether this needs to be done by the one department or is it like the state government will do the separate assessment and the central government will do separate assessment, or is it like the assessment will be done by one government and the refund will be done by the other department and something. So for this again there was a clarification where they clearly says like this all thing, whosoever is sanctioning the refund has to also issue a payment advice. So this all needs to be done by one person and not by different authorities. So this is like again we have just populated like what would be the refund procedure. So first you have to file the RFD1. After you file the RFD1, you will get the ARN number, and then if the GST officer is satisfied, he will raise the acknowledgement. If he's not satisfied, he will raise a discrepancy memo in RFD 03. And once it's done, then he will also grant a provisional refund, which will be RFD 04. And after provisional refund is sanctioned, then they will give a payment advice in RFD 05, and there will be a final refund order, which will be in RFD 06. And if he feels like there were certain adjustments to be made against the refund, then he will also issue RFD 07. So this is a process of how this refund will work. So now we'll also understand about the refund formula. When I'm saying refund formula is quite easy if we talk about electronic cash ledger. If I want to get the refund or the balance which is there in electronic cash ledger, I can just take whatever balance is. I don't have to use any formula. But whenever it comes to input tax credit, whenever I have to claim the refund for the input tax credit, it's really important. Like, are you eligible for all the input tax credit, or is there any restriction on that? What if you are a person, you are doing some domestic supply and you are also doing zero tax supplies? So in that case, can you claim the refund for the entire ITC? Obviously no, because government only wants to promote export, right? If they want to only promote export, in that particular case, they will give you refund only against the supplies or the ITC which has been used for the zero tax supplies, and not on the ITC which has been used for your normal or the domestic supplies. So here the reason is, that's the reason we have to use the formula for computing what would be the refund amount. So in case of the accumulated ITC, which means whenever I am doing zero rated supplies and I have filed LUT, which means I am supplying to an SEZ without payment of IGST, or I am doing export without payment of IGST, in that particular case, this formula applies. And in this formula, when we are talking about ITC, remember the ITC only for input and input services are eligible, not for the capital goods. You're not allowed to claim the ITC on the, refund on the ITC against the capital goods. So if you look into the formula for the refund amount, is turnover of the zero rate supply of goods plus turnover of zero rate supply of services multiplied by net ITC divided by adjusted total turnover. And if we talk about net ITC, it means input tax credit availed on input and input services. So it's not against the capital goods. Now, if we talk about inverted duty structure, when we were talking about inverted duty structure, we understood our output tax rate is less than our input tax rate. That is known as inverted duty structure. There was certain clarification for this also, because now question comes in, I have this structure. I have my input, I have my output, I was a manufacturing concern. Whenever I was buying something, the rate was higher, and whenever I am selling the final product which I am selling, the rate is actually lower. So I have so much of the accumulated ITC. Now what question is, because I don't have only that particular rates. There are certain like packing materials which is being used, and there was certain you can say repair which happened on that machinery, or maybe there are certain other ITC which I'm going to get. But the tax rate is usually equal for that. Like whatever the output liability I have, the tax rate is equal. Now can I claim the refund for that? So is it that will also come under inverted duty structure? So the question is, see, the main activity we are talking about, whatever you are doing, your output tax rate is lower than your input tax rate. So for this particular case, there was another clarification which says, yes, you can go ahead and claim the ITC for such transaction. But there is one more clarification. There could also be case where while you have purchased something, the tax rate was, let's say, 18%. It was the same item. Now you are about to sell that item and the tax rate got changed. There was another notification, and as per that notification, the rate for this got changed to, let's say, 12%. So while you have purchased that, you have paid at the rate of 18%, but while you are selling it and paying the taxes at the rate of 12% because the rate got changed. So for this particular case, the question comes in whether this transaction is inverted duty structure or not. So here it says, since your input and output was same, and this is just because of the time span, like in one particular time it was some other rate and other time the rate was something different, it does not mean it's an inverted duty structure. So this will not get covered under inverted duty structure. For this you can't claim refund. But for the earlier case, if we talk about the different rates you have, you can go ahead and claim the refund for that particular case. Now we know what is that what is that formula for computing this inverted duty structure, and whenever we are talking, because we are going to claim the refund for the ITC amount, whether my all input service capital good are covered while I'm claiming the refund. So no, you can claim the refund only for input and not for the input services and the capital good. That is for the inverted duty structure, and the formula is over here. It says the maximum refund amount is equal to total turnover of inverted rated supply of goods and services divided by adjusted total turnover multiplied by net ITC, and the minus tax payable on such inverted rated supply of goods and services. And whenever we are talking about ITC, it means the input tax credit availed on inputs during the relevant period other than input tax credit availed for which refund is claimed under subsection subrule 4A or 4B or both, which means in case of the inverted duty structure, the refund is only claimed in respect of input and not for input services and the capital goods. And when we are talking about the clarification, there was a clarification that ITC on stores, spares, packing materials, purchase for machinery repair, printing and stationery item, that will be now considered as a part of ITC. So that was a clarification which has been given by the government. Now we go towards certain guidelines which has been given by the government. So first of the guideline was in respect of the accumulated ITC which you have. Whenever I'm talking about the accumulated ITC, usually I have in case of the zero rated supply, whenever I'm doing it against the LUT, or the second case could be in case of inverted duty structure, because there I have this accumulated duty. So here, while you're filing the application, you also have to submit your form GSTR 2A, and you have to give the detail in Annexure B. So Annexure B here is given for your reference. This is the information which is given in Annexure B. Along with that, you also have to give the self-certified copies of invoices which are not populated in 2A. But for now, I don't think so. This is actually relevant because the government says you will be able to claim the refund only on of the amount which is actually given in your GSTR 2A. And also there is a rule 36.4 for now, because of the COVID-19 that has been deferred, and they says you can claim as per your purchases. So we can just look into it and then correspondingly stand this information. Apart from that, there is also a valuation, because you're not even paying the taxes to the government. So for the valuation of the turnover of zero rated supply of good without payment of tax under bond or LUT, there is a restriction here. They say whatever the value has been which is declared by the supplier, or 1.5 times the value of like good domestically supplied by the same or similarly placed supplier, minimum of this will be considered as the valuation for the purpose of refund. So this is the guideline in respect of the unutilized input tax credit, which is pertaining to export without payment of taxes, supplied made to SEZ unit or SEZ developer without payment of taxes, and accumulation due to inverted duty structure. There is another guideline in respect of deemed export, and as we know, for the deemed export, either of the supplier or the buyer can claim the ITC, or sorry, refund. Right? Either supplier can claim the refund or recipient can claim the refund. So here, whenever the supplier is claiming the refund, this person has to submit the following evidence. This person has to submit acknowledgement by any one of this, because if it's either, it could be through jurisdictional tax officer or through advance authorization holder or export promotion capital goods authorization holder or EOU. And if you're talking about EOU, this person will be you will be giving the signed invoice copy that this supplies has been received by them. So this or plus this, and also he has to take an undertaking by the recipient of the deemed export, where he has to make sure this no input tax credit on such supply has been availed by him, and he shall not claim the refund in respect of such supply, because we know that for deemed export the refund can also be claimed by the recipient. But let's say in case of deemed export the refund is claimed by the recipient, then he has to furnish an undertaking, and that person has to make sure he's filing a declaration that this person is not availing the ITC, and also has to make sure the supplier is not claiming the refund for particular transaction. So another guideline is respect of excess. You can say the excess taxes paid for the TDS and the TCS. So here the government has clarified that the excess balance may be claimed by the tax deductor or the tax collector as the excess balance in electronic cash ledger. But if he is, let's say, he has already filed the return, if that person has already filed the return and that has already been shown in the electronic cash ledger of the other party, so in this case, that other person can adjust the same while discharging his output tax liability, or he can claim the refund of the same under the category refund of excess balance in electronic cash ledger. Which means this person, because if we talk about here, whenever I'm talking about GST 7 or GST 8, GST 8 means whenever I'm supplying to an e-commerce operator and this e-commerce operator has already filed a GST 8 application and this is already reflected in the cash ledger of the other party, so that e-commerce supplier can either adjust that amount through his, you can say the liability, whatever liability he has, or if he feels he's not able to adjust it, that this person can also claim the refund for that particular transaction. Apart from that, there was a clarification or a guideline in respect of the refund of integrated tax paid on exports. So this is in respect of the export with payment of IGST. So they say that you don't even have to file the extra application for that. So it says the shipping bill filed by an exporter is deemed to be an application for the refund in such cases, but they have to make sure the values in GST 3B and GST 1 is actually tallying. So whatever the liability has paid, because if you look into 3.1b, they ask for the zero rated supply. So there the value and in GST 1 in table number 6a, this both values are matching. So that needs to be taken care. But the whatever the shipping bill detail has been filed, that will be deemed that the refund application has been filed. Apart from that, there is certain clarification which has been given by the government. So usually one question comes into our mind is, let's say I'm a person, I'm an exporter, and I was filing an LUT. And we know there is a deadline for filing an LUT. Like for every year, I have to file an LUT. Now what happened? My LUT got expired, and I want to do some exports. So the question is like whether I have to first make the payment to the government and then claim the refund for that, or is there any extension possible? So this is yes, the proper officer commissioner has the power to extend that, so that person can extend it. Or the second question is if that person has extended, great, but obviously if not, then you have to make the payment of the taxes and get the refund of that. And now if we just talk about due to, but it doesn't mean like if that person has already extended, then he will force you, no, first you make the payment of the taxes and then claim the refund. So that person will not force you if that has been already considered. And if you know that the payment was realized, the export was properly done, so this person can actually, the commissioner can actually give you the concession for all of such things. Apart from that, the thing is, because we understand about the COVID-19 and we know that many people were not able to file the LUT within time. So for the next year, which means for 2021, they need to file it before like 1st April, because they have to do the exports and all. So here the government has said that you can do, so no problem. We understand like you are all stuck at your home, you don't have proper internet connectivity, or maybe you don't have the proper system right now. So for that, they have already given you the relaxation. So till 30th June, you can do that. So till 30th June, if you file LUT, that's great, and you can keep on exporting the goods, and so you can keep on exporting the goods or the services basis the LUT which have been filed, which is applicable for your previous financial year, which was for 1920. So you can give the same reference number while you are exporting your goods or the services. Apart from that, there is a clarification on issue relating to the zero rated supplies, which again was saying if there is certain supplies of an exempted goods. So then if there is a supply of an exempted good, then there is no requirement for the LUT at all. So you don't have to even you don't even need the LUT for that particular case. And apart from that, if we look into it, there was a refund pertaining to period of different financial year. We understood that you can actually go ahead and claim the refund even if the months are in different financial year. Apart from that, there is one important thing over here is they say like since the government was facing problem, so sometimes what happens, we are claiming the refund, we have made the extra payment, but some of the amount we have utilized for the ITC and some of the amount we have actually made through a cash. When government was giving you the refund, they were giving you the refund in cash. But you would have, while you were making the payment to the government, you would have done through some of the amount through utilizing the balance in the credit ledger and some of the amount in the cash ledger. So the government says in the following cases, what they will do, they will proportionately give you the refund through cash or through recredited to the credit ledger. So that will be done. So that was a clarification which has been given by the department. Apart from that, they have asked for a new requirement to mention the HSN and SSC in the Annexure B while you are filing your refund application. So that was again asked for, and they were also saying that while considering the rule number 36(4), the refund of accumulated ITC shall be restricted to the ITC as per those invoices, the detail of which has been uploaded by your supplier in GST1 and are reflected in 2A of the applicant. But here again there was another relaxation which has been given because of COVID-19. So where you can actually go ahead and file the application basis your purchase register. You only have to send some documents to the government. Apart from that, there are certain clarification which we have already discussed. So this is one of the case where you have paid the amount, paid the tax amount to the government on the advances, and at the later stage, this you have not even supplied the services. So if you have not supplied the services and you are issuing the refund voucher, so if you are issuing the refund voucher, you can go ahead and claim the refund if you're not able to adjust that amount against your future output tax liability. In the second case, you have raised an advance, you have also raised an invoice after that, but then you have not supplied it. So in that particular case, you can raise a credit note and you can show that credit note in the 3B and can adjust that account against the output tax liability. And if you're not able to adjust that against the output tax liability, then you can go ahead and claim the refund by filing an application in RFD 01. So these are the two cases. And apart from that, there was another case in respect of a LUT. So in respect of the LUT, what the government has given is, they're saying because that's the same thing which we have discussed. So we know that LUT you should have filed for the next year till 31st March 2020. So since they have clearly mentioned like whatever the things which was falling with the period from 20th March 2020 to 29/6/2020. So whatever was falling between this has been extended till 30/6/2020, which means the LUT which you were supposed to file for 2021, now you can file till 30/6/2020, but you just make sure that you are filing it till 30/6/2020. So, so this was another clarification which has been given. So again for the refund application, because we know we were telling you this 2 years are getting expired. So we are talking about expiry of the 2 year, and if it is happening between 20th March 2020 to 29th June 2020, the same shall still be extended till 30th June 2020. So this is the clarification, which is certain, you can say relaxation, which has been given by the department in respect of you can say in respect of or because of COVID-19. Now, if we talk about where to even file this refund application, so on the government portal, after you log into gst.gov.in, you have to enter your ID password, and under the services there is the option refund, and under refund there is an application for refund where you can just select this, and there will be different options which is available. You have to select that particular option and then can file for an application under the refund to the government, and you will be getting your refund. So this was all about the refund which we were talking about. We understood about when we can actually claim the refund, what are the conditions on which we can claim refund. We understood when we cannot claim the refund. There's a time limit for claiming the refund. Also, there are certain relaxation given by the department because of this COVID-19. And also, we have understood certain clarifications and the guidelines which has been given by the department in respect to the refund. So this was all about the today's session where we understood entirely everything about refund. So hope you like this video and the webinar. In case you have any query, you can always call us, or you may also drop us a mail so that we can help you out. And if you need any help regarding any other questions, you can always drop us a mail. Thank you very much for attending this webinar.